Hey guys, it's Raul again, and today I'll be sharing with you my June wrap-up. So in the month of June, I miraculously completed 5 books. I was in the biggest reading slump ever. It was like halfway through June, and I still hadn't completed anything, so the 5 books that I ended up completing were all within the last 2 weeks of June, which I'm kind of surprised about. I listened actually to all of them on audiobook because I was just like not in the mood to sit down and physically pick up a book and read it. For some reason I couldn't sit down to read. I had read so much for school and I was still kind of in that mindset with like my summer classes and everything that I just like couldn't sit down and pick up a book and physically read it. I'm glad I actually ended up finishing some things in June to talk about with you guys. First one that I ended up picking up was Why Not Me by Mindy Kaling. I figured to kind of kickstart my reading mood and everything, I would pick up something that was just like quick and funny and easy to read, and this book was definitely something that I really needed at the time. I mean, I've listened to other kind of celebrity memoir type books and everything that I've kind of really enjoyed. Like I listened to Yes Please by Amy Poehler, and I really enjoyed that one. I thought it was really funny. So I kind of was in the mood to pick something up that I knew was going to be light and quick, that I didn't really have to pay too much attention to. And this definitely fit the bill with this one. It was definitely not kind of my cup of tea completely, but it was something that I needed to read to just kind of get myself back into the reading mood. I loved that Mindy Kaling narrated this herself, and you know, she put a lot of her own little anecdotes and stuff in there, which I really enjoyed because I like Mindy Kaling. I loved her in The Office. I loved her in The Mindy Project. So definitely been meaning to pick up something by her, and I'm really glad that I ended up finally listening to something by her. And I ended up giving Why Not Me 3.5 out of 5 stars or so. Then after that, I picked up Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, and this is a book that is written in verse. A lot of people have talked about Justin Reynolds. I had a friend at school who was just obsessed with Justin Reynolds, and she was always recommending books by him to me. I just knew I had to pick something up from him like very, very soon. The audiobook was available from my library, so I knew I definitely had to pick it up. It was really short because, again, it's a book that's written in verse, and it follows our main character named Will, whose brother is murdered, and he kind of sets it upon himself to take revenge upon the guy who murdered him. So it just takes place within a span of, I believe it's like 2 minutes, this entire book, and it's just the elevator ride down from his apartment down to the main streets as he's kind of on his way to go kill his brother's murderer. And on his way down, people from his past, like ghosts, kind of start coming into the elevator and telling him things about his past and revealing things about him that he didn't know about. And it's just super interesting that, you know, you get all of these different perspectives on culture and violence and that kind of thing from all of these different characters that, you know, eventually kind of try and convince Will that what he's doing is wrong and that adding violence to violence isn't the right thing to do. And I just really, really ended up enjoying this audiobook. It was just absolutely fantastic. It's narrated by Jason Reynolds himself. So yeah, that definitely added to it because he knew, you know, how things were supposed to sound, and I absolutely ended up enjoying this one. Definitely want to read more by Jason Reynolds. I ended up giving Long Way Down a 4 out of 5 stars. Then after that, I picked up The Leaving by Tara Altebrando. This book has been sitting on my shelf for a little while now, and I've been meaning to read it for a while because I've been hearing pretty good things. I know a couple of people here on BookTube that have actually read it and really enjoyed this one, and this is about 6 kids, 6 kindergartners who end up going missing, and years later 5 of them end up coming back, and none of them have any memory of the 6th child, and they're all kind of trying to figure out where they've been, what's been going on, how they've lost all of these memories, where is this 6th child that never turned up again. And it's just like super, super interesting. It definitely gripped me from the very beginning. I really enjoyed this one. I actually ended up reading or listening to this entire thing in a day. Like, this is a 420-page book, and I listened to this entire thing in a day. Like, I just couldn't put this down. I needed to know what was going to happen. I really, really ended up enjoying it. This is the first time I had read anything by Tara Altebrando before, and I definitely needed to read more by her. I actually ended up picking up another book by her, and I'm currently in the middle of reading that one. And I've just really enjoyed her writing for some reason. Like, she can just like grip you with her plots and stuff. Like, the characters weren't my favorite, but they definitely were strong enough for me to want to follow them along. Like, there are a lot of different POVs going on. And you have 3 like main POVs throughout the book, and follows 2 of the kids who went missing and the sister of the boy who never returned. And I'm kind of glad they only gave us a few POVs, and they didn't really give us like multiple POVs for every single kid who had returned, because I feel like that would have been way too overwhelming to have 6 different POVs in a book like this. So I'm glad they only, kept it down to 3 POVs. That definitely kept it interesting for me, and I just really enjoyed this one. I loved, like I said, I loved the writing, I loved the pacing. I thought it was pretty well done. I mean, in the end, it was definitely, for me, it was surprising. There were certain aspects and everything that I just couldn't guess, and I like when mysteries keep me guessing until the end, and they don't seem as predictable, and I just really ended up loving that one. There's one aspect of the book that I wish they would have given us more closure on. They kind of left it open-ending, and I'm hoping that it's because she's thinking about writing a sequel, because I still had some questions at the end of this one that I wish would have gotten answered. I mean, if we do end up getting another book that explains all of these other things, I would absolutely end up loving this one. But for now, I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars because I still had those questions and I still want answers to. Then after that, the next 2 books that I read were part of a bind-up that I have, but they are technically 2 separate books, and that is Party Games and Don't Stay Up Late by R.L. Stine. This is the first and the second book in the Fear Street relaunch that he just did a few years ago, and I listened to both of these again on audiobook, and I'm counting these as 2 separate books because technically these are 2 separate books. I just happen to have a bind-up of books 1 and 2, but on audio, I had to borrow 2 separate audiobooks, so I'm counting them as 2 books. But I ended up actually really loving this. I'm glad that I jumped back into the Fear Street series again. And I just really enjoy the Fear Street series in general. I mean, one of the things that kind of helped me to get out of this slump was to go back to an author that kind of helped me fall in love with books. And R.L. Stine is definitely one of those authors that helped me fall in love with books and stories. And I'm glad that I was able to go back to kind of my roots and pick up an author that I hadn't read in a really long time and start enjoying him again. And I was just super pleasantly surprised at the series. I mean, I felt like they were a little bit predictable and a little bit kind of immature. The writing wasn't the greatest and everything, and I just I wasn't enjoying them at the beginning as much as I was back when I was reading them in high school, but then I kind of got to the endings of these books and realized why it was that I loved Fear Street so much, and it's because R.L. Stine can write great twists and great endings. Even if you feel like you can predict the end, he's always going to throw something there that you won't see coming, and I really, really end up enjoying that one. Party Games, the first one, is about kind of this group of teenagers who goes to this island for a party. There's the popular kid at the school is throwing this party at his mansion on this island, and then murders start to happen and the kids start getting killed off, which is a generic kind of plot and everything, but very early on in the book things kind of end up switching and everything takes a completely different direction, which I really appreciated because it wasn't just focusing on the murders. Then there's home invasion type things starts happening, and I really, really ended up enjoying that. So I gave Party Games, I think it was a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And with Don't Stay Up Late, it follows our main character who is kind of she had an accident, so she's going through kind of some post-traumatic situation with the accident, and I believe she lost her father in the accident, so she's grieving the loss of her father. So as a way for her to get her mind off of all of this stuff, her therapist kind of suggests that she get a job and start to kind of take her mind off of everything and get something else to focus on. So she starts babysitting, and the kid that she starts babysitting, weird things start happening in the house, and these creatures start showing up, and it's just really creepy and weird. And that one, I felt like book 2 was more predictable, and at least I thought it was going to be more predictable because I kind of knew where things were going and what was going to happen, and I can kind of see one of the endings from a mile away, and I ended up definitely calling that one. But then in R.L. Stine fashion, he ended up surprising me with a couple of extra twists in the end that I wasn't expecting at all, that I really, really ended up loving. At first I was going to give Don't Stay Up Late about a 2 stars or so, but then I ended up bumping it to 3.5 because those twists at the end I ended up absolutely loving. And that's what kind of reminded me of why I loved R.L. Stine so much, because I love those twists and those things that he throws in the end that I just was not expecting, and that definitely boosted my reading mood. I definitely want to try and pick up more stuff by him. I have 2 other kind of bind-ups that I really want to get to, hopefully within July, and kind of get more into Fear Street and everything, because he has been like I said, releasing new books in his future series now, and this kind of reminded me of why I loved it so much. So yeah, guys, that is it for the books that I completed in the month of June. Comment down below, let me know what your favorite books were for the month of June. If you guys have read any of the books that I have, definitely let me know down below. I'd love to talk to you guys about it. Thank you guys all again for watching, and I will see you all next time.